Quickest Uber driver I've ever called.
I know.
So what's popping, y'all?
Expensive.
Yeah.
It'll be $30.
Damn. Per mile?
Sure. I'll take it.
Yeah. Because he's like, you want to get there early, so you should probably be at the airport by 7 o'clock. And I took that to mean be at the airport by 7 o'clock. And I left the apartment at 5:30.
When was your first flight?
11:05.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So,
This airport is like so nice and so fast that you can roll up like
30 minutes before you're flying.
30 minutes before you're flying.
Yet another instance of dad being a boomer.
Yeah.
If you were in Atlanta, I would say, yeah, you need 2.5 to 3 hours if you're going to Atlanta, but like...
Not from Tulsa, I don't think. Well, maybe
Doubt it.
maybe an hour from Tulsa.
Yeah, like an hour is
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, an hour.
Well, I think he was expecting TSA to be a lot more anal than they really were.
Why?
Because he's apparently always had bad luck with, getting the random search with the TSA.
Well, even that takes like 3 minutes. Whatever access Dad has to his flight info, but like...
He basically stalks all my flights every time I fly. He knows more about my flights than I do. And he told me, he's like, all right, well, I'm on the phone with Southwest right now. If you find out, let me know and I'll hang up. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't understand why he's angry on my behalf.
I mean...
I'm already in the plane. Like...
Flight delays happen. They happen all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they literally happen.
I've literally sat on an airplane for 2 hours before.
My only complaint was that the AC was not on and it was getting very hot and stuffy in the plane. And they compensated us with complimentary water. They didn't even give us peanuts. I had to supply my own peanuts.
I was flying from here to Atlanta one time. We got up to, like, the Panhandle area of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
It was storming in Atlanta, and they had to shut the whole airport down. And so they were going to put us in a holding pattern. And we were in a holding pattern for a while, and our airplane was running out of fuel. They made us land in Tallahassee. So then we had to land in Tallahassee. They let us get off the plane so they could refuel the plane. And then we had to get back on the plane. And so I think we were 3 hours behind when we were supposed to have arrived in Atlanta.
Driven from Tallahassee to Atlanta at the
Yes.
same time.
We could have.
It just sounds like a fun time all around.
It was when we were going to do CPV stuff. But anyway.
Well, I guess that concludes our first day. There really wasn't much to do. Justin had work, and Aaron had to take the dog and the cat to the vet, so there wasn't really much for us to do in the morning. So that morning I did a little bit of work, because I brought my work with me, obviously. And then when Aaron came back with Artemis and Nova, the cat and the dog, we just kind of waited around, and we went to a place called Wright's, like a deli, for lunch. I had a Cubano. It was pretty good. Really good Cuban sandwich. I think Aaron and Justin had something called the meat martini, the beef martini, something like that. And then later on that day, Mom and Dad came. They got a rental car from the airport, so we drove around town with them. We visited their Airbnb they were staying at, and then we went out on the town and had dinner.
There should be a little stations.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, I'm filming, so. So that was about all that was. We also stopped at Target earlier today because I forgot swim trunks and flip-flops, so that's going to be definitely needed for tomorrow. Because tomorrow, we're going to the beach. So, see you tomorrow.
So I look like a frat boy. Got my NASA shirt, my NASA trunks, this Polaroid hat. It's a beautiful day here at Tampa Beach. You know, I don't normally like going to the beach. I have a tendency to get sand everywhere and kind of dirty. I always get sunburned. I like to joke that I don't look very Hispanic. I look so white that I don't tan anymore, I burn. But even though it's sunny out and it's not super hot, sunscreen's been doing its job. I haven't been getting super burned. The water is actually really nice. I'm feeling it on my toes right now as I'm walking. And it's kind of cool. It was a little bit cool earlier. It was kind of cloudy. There was a little bit of cloud cover. And it cleared up, and now it's beautiful, actually. You know, I'd say that I don't normally like going to the beach, but I might make an exception for here in beautiful, sunny Tampa. And so that's what we're doing today, going to the beach. And tomorrow we're going to the Kennedy Space Center. And I think it's going to be really amazing. Tomorrow's also Father's Day. So, Dad, if you're watching this, happy Father's Day. You mean the world to me, and I love you very much. How are y'all doing?
Hi.
We're here.
Used to be like, haha.
Here we are in Florida. It's a different beach than it is in Texas. It's a lot cleaner, actually. It's fewer people.
Oh, really? I don't think it's a cleaner.
There's no crashing waves here. And the water is cold.
Pretty far.
Well, today was a lot. We woke up pretty early and we drove over to the beach, and that was fun. We had a lot of fun over there at the beach. The beaches in Florida, specifically this part of Florida, were surprisingly a lot cleaner than the beaches I'm used to in Texas. In Texas, most of the time when we go to the beach, it's like Port Aransas. And the beaches at Port Aransas are really, really dirty, and there's a million people. And it's kind of nasty, and it's always hot, and there's not enough wind, and I always burn. But this time, Aaron and Justin managed to find a beach that did not have any people there. There's a little bit of a walk was parked there, but it was really clean. I mean, as clean as a beach would go. There was only a little bit of that like seaweed stuff, and really clean. It did not get super sunny until later on. We got there at about 11 o'clock. We left at about noon, 12:30. And we rinsed off, we changed clothes, and then we were gonna go to lunch at a place called Frenchie's, which is a chain here in Tampa, in Florida. But when we got there, there was just so many people at Clearwater, I think that's the name of the town, that it was just not worth it. I I mean, we would have had to pay $38, almost $40 for parking, and then had to walk to the restaurant. And we didn't want to do any of that, so we went to a place called Rumba's and had lunch, and by that time it was actually more like Lupper there. It was like 4 o'clock by the time we actually got to sit down and eat. So a lot of driving, a whole lot of nothing going on, so that's why I didn't film anything, because it was not very interesting. And I had this really good, it was called Rasta Pasta. It was like a cream sauce, Alfredo sort of thing. And you had your choice of meat, and I picked shrimp, but you could have done like bass, or like, I think they had shellfish, like mussels and scallops and things like that. That's what I had. Aaron had a blackened grouper sandwich. Justin had some sort of meat combo that was like a rib and grouper and shrimp or something like that. Dad had fried shrimp, and Mom doesn't like seafood, so she had a blackened chicken sandwich. So we all had a really good Lupper. It was really good. I think that we probably would have had about the same experience had we waited for Frenchie's, but Frenchie's is a chain, and as far as I know, there's only one Rumba's, so I do recommend Rumba's if you want to go there. We went home because we had not showered from the time we left the beach through to Lupper. We had not showered, so we went back, finally took a shower, and then we went over to where Mom and Dad were staying at their bed and breakfast and just relaxed, had a beer, and yeah, that was about it. So tomorrow we're supposed to be up and going at 6:30. I mean, out the door at 6:30, because we're driving over to the Kennedy Space Center, which is basically on the other side of the Florida Peninsula. So that'll be really fun. So we'll see you tomorrow at the Kennedy Space Center. This is going to mean so much to me because NASA, and specifically the Kennedy Space Center, has meant so much to me growing up, and I've never been. I don't think we're going to be able to go to like the actual launch pads or the VAB or anything. That might have to be sometime in the future, but we'll see the visitor center at the KSC, and I may or may not have an emotional experience. See you then. Wow. I don't like to admit that I am a very emotional person, but I'm a very emotional person. And today was certainly a lot. Don't worry, I didn't like break down or cry or anything. I felt like I was about to. But going to the Kennedy Space Center today was truly something that I'm never going to forget for the rest of my life. And hopefully with this video, that'll help too. I've got my laptop here to sort of help me organize my thoughts with all this. There's just so much that I knew I would not be able to get off the cuff. And don't worry, it's not a script or anything. It's just my thoughts and just kind of what we saw. We got into the park and we actually parked. The parking lots at the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex are kind of cool because there's 7 of them and they're all numbered, and each one corresponds to a Mercury astronaut. So like lot 1 was for Alan Shepard, lot 2 was for Gus Grissom. We were in lot 5, which is Wally Schirra, which I thought was pretty fitting because that was the astronaut that I met. I got to meet Wally Schirra when I was a kid, and that sort of was poetic to me. We go in and we get to see this outdoor rocket park. They have mock-ups of the historical rockets outside at the visitor complex. So there were these beautiful mock-ups of Redstone and Atlas and Delta and Titan and Saturn, the Saturn 1B rockets. We'll get to the Saturn V later. And just looking up at even like the Mercury Redstone, which out of all the rockets that humans have ever flown in, is the tiniest. And even then, looking up at them, I can't imagine how Alan Shepard and Gus Grissom must have felt. It was still pretty visceral feeling. And of course, you look at, the Titan II, the rocket that carried Gemini astronauts, and that's even bigger. And of course, the tour guide was talking about how, most of these used to be intercontinental ballistic missiles, and in the case of the Redstone, it was a medium range or a short range ballistic. And he was talking about it. It's like, but then this rocket over here, the Delta, we designed it, specifically for launching rockets into space. It was really getting into it. Walking around the park, of course, we had to stop at the gift shop. That's where I got some of these postcards that I am going to mail. But also at that gift shop, outside of the gift shop, there was a little Lego. Spirit or Opportunity, whatever, one of the two, made completely out of Lego. It was beautiful. It looked really great. And then we went on the bus tour to the Apollo Saturn rocket park, and on the way there, I saw the vehicle assembly building. I didn't think we were going to do it because Justin read on the website they weren't doing bus tours, so we originally thought we were not going to see this, but we passed by the vehicle assembly building. We didn't even get very close to it, but my God, you hear about this thing. It built the Saturn V rocket. It was building the SLS as we were there. I mean, I think only like a day or so ago, they just mated the second stage to the adapter for the first stage. And I thought I actually was going to start crying there. Thankfully, I didn't. But we go over to the Apollo Saturn rocket park, and you go in, and they give you this little, for these museum or NASA things, they show you these little mini movies about it and how, the engineers at the time had to figure out how to build a moon rocket. And then when that was finished, it opened up and you could see the Saturn V rocket. It was not a mock-up. This was a real one that just never flew. And I've seen them before. There was one at the Johnson Space Center in Houston. But it doesn't matter. Every time I see a Saturn V and those gigantic engines, I was floored. I was left speechless and looking just into those engines. Wow. And it was such that you could actually walk underneath it and you could look up and you could look at the rocket and it would just fill your vision as you looked up at it. And, I got to see each individual stage, the S1C, the S2, the the S4B, the adapter section, and the command and service module. And it, it was like home, because I'd been to the Johnson Space Center a million times. And I've seen that particular Saturn V a million times. And it doesn't get old. It never gets old. And then on the way we also were able to see pads 39A and 39B. Unfortunately, we missed the launch. I think SpaceX launched a GPS satellite the day I flew into Tampa. So we missed the launch, but we also missed just being able to see Falcon 9 on the pad. I mean, we were far away, but I mean, if you had a good enough zoom lens, you probably would have been able to get a good shot of it. That rocket park was all about Apollo. So there was the real Apollo 14 spacecraft, the real command module, several articles of the Apollo era. There was a mock-up of the command module. There was a mock-up of the lunar module. And I told Heron, I'm like, can you imagine sitting in that thing for 3 or 4 days? And you have to be very, very friendly with your crewmates. Then we went into the firing room. It was like a historic firing room. I think it was, they said it was a real firing room, but I think it was a mock-up. And they gave a presentation about what it was like to be in the firing room when the Saturn V took off. They had a sort of simulated countdown. They had the actual consoles that were used in the firing room restored, and as each launch controller talked, their little console would light up to show you that this guy's talking, now this guy's talking, now this guy's talking. And then when it went to T0, and the way you're facing, the window is behind you, so that's where the rocket is behind you, and the whole room goes this reddish pink color to simulate how the sun sort of refracts the light of ignition. And the whole room shakes because there's base shakers in the seats in the room, and the whole room is shaking. The windows behind you were rattling. You could hear it, and you could feel it. And I'm sitting here thinking, God, can you imagine what it must have been like to sit there in 1969 and 1970, 3 miles away, three of the bravest men in history are sitting on top of 360 feet of raw, stupid power, and they light the fuse. It was amazing. How do I go on from that? After that, we go back on the bus to go back from the Apollo Saturn rocket park to the rest of the visitor center. And on the way back, of course, we see the VAB again. It's always beautiful, always beautiful. And then we get to see the Atlantis exhibit. That was one of the main attractions at the Kennedy Space Center, because that's the final resting place of the space shuttle Atlantis. And growing up, I would watch space shuttle launches on TV, and Space Shuttle Atlantis, we're gonna fix Hubble, we're gonna build the International Space Station. Atlantis was the last shuttle ever to fly, and so it was another one of those experiences where they did another little mini movie about Atlantis, and then it opened up and you could see it, and again, I was floored. And it was the sort of exhibit where you can sort of walk around it, and it's the way that it is set up is it's kind of rolled on its side a little bit with the payload bay doors open and the cannon arms out, sort of like this mic boom, sort of extended and trying to grab something. And behind it was a Hubble exhibit, so you could see one of the things that it worked on, Hubble. Actually, I think that Atlantis was the shuttle that launched Hubble. Okay, well, it was launched by Discovery, but it was serviced by Atlantis, so they had a mock-up of Hubble, and thinking about it, it's like all of that to launch Hubble and to service it for so many years, and we're just going to replace it with the James Webb? It's kind of sad, really. But you look at the exhibit of all the space shuttle missions that they've had, from STS-1 to STS-135, and it has a little brief description. I mean, you could read this stuff on Wikipedia, but the little placards that had what each mission did and had a little picture of the highlight of each mission, and you look at Challenger and you look at Columbia's last missions, and instead of a plastic, museum placard, it's a brass or a bronze little plaque commemorating those 14 men and women who lost their lives. And it makes you stop and think. And there was another exhibit there that talks specifically about them and how they gave their lives to furthering space exploration, to furthering humans in space. And I think to myself, this is why we need to keep going. This is why we need to further humans in space. It's why we need to go back to the moon. It's why we need to go to Mars. It's why we need to go beyond. Because they paved the way for us. After that, then, we went to this Astronaut Heroes exhibit. This is the last thing that we did at the park. And just looking at the accomplishments of each of the astronauts, and the Astronaut Hall of Fame was there too. And one of the questions they sort of posed before you go in is, who are your heroes? And, the answers ranged from the little kids going, oh, my mom, my dad, oh, my teacher. Some of them had real life heroes or like maybe superheroes. And then it goes on to some of the engineers who are engineers at NASA now. And they go, well, my heroes were, the people I saw on TV flying the space shuttle. Or some of the flight controllers on Apollo 13. For me, that answer is Gene Kranz. And then they go to Jim Lovell, and he says, my hero is Charles Lindbergh. So you have all these people giving their reasons for that. And I was thinking, if they were to ask me, I would have said Gene Kranz. And Cy Liebergott. Because those men represent tenacity and the refusal to accept failure. We go in, we keep going through this. I realize I'm absolutely terrible at describing things. And at the end of this exhibit is the Astronaut Hall of Fame, and it tells when each astronaut was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And there was like a chance to do a photo op. And there was this mural on the wall of the 7 Mercury astronauts. And I remember looking at that picture, this particular picture, and I remember thinking, God, Wally Schirra really has the best hair out of all of them, doesn't he? He's the only one out of the bunch with that full head of hair. I miss you, Wally. I know I only met him once, but I would say he's one of my heroes too. Look at me, about to tear up. Tomorrow we're going to Universal Studios, so we're going to ride some roller coasters or whatever. I don't even know if I'll be able to record some of this stuff. Like, how the hell am I supposed to record a roller coaster? Alright, I'll see you. I don't want to say I don't like going to amusement parks, because I generally do. But today kind of reminded me of why I don't make a point of going to amusement parks all that often. We went to Universal Studios today, and I had a generally pretty okay time. You know, I'm not exactly... The reason why I don't go to theme parks or amusement parks all that much is because you kind of forget about the things that kind of suck about amusement parks between the times you're going to them. Like, you don't think about how expensive the food is, or how long the lines are, or how many damn people there are, or the fact that you need to put sunscreen on every 20 minutes to keep your body from turning into a lobster. So, for that reason, I don't usually go to amusement parks. I mean, where I'm from, I live literally 10 minutes away from Six Flags. And I haven't been to Six Flags in well over 7 or 8 years. And the last time I was at Universal was back in 2014 on a band trip. And a lot has changed since that band trip. So it was basically like going to it for the first time. There were very few rides that were the same. The only one that was the same was the rocket roller coaster, the one where you get in and you like select a track and it blasts that music in your ears while you're going up and down the roller coaster. There was a new Harry Potter one. It was like the Gringotts one. We went to that. That was very fun. The Mummy is always fun. So the roller coasters, I think, are the best part of going to an amusement park. And to a certain extent, even like waiting in the lines is not that bad because you're at least moving and there's things in the queue to keep your mind occupied. Or like with the Mummy, there's that funny little interview that has Brendan Fraser in it, and it kind of sets up the context for the ride. Or like Gringotts, it's very visually stunning inside that Gringotts building. But the walking and the heat and the humidity, the Florida humidity, yeah, I did not miss that from 2014. There were a lot of rides that were not there from last time. So last time I was there, they still had the Dueling Dragons or the Dragon Challenge, whatever they called it. The one where it was the Hungarian Horntail and the Chinese Fireball, the red and blue dragons. I have a funny story about that. But there, we didn't go to that, and I think they took that out. They replaced it with Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure or something like that. So there are a lot of Harry Potter rides that just aren't there anymore, and I really like the Dueling Dragons. I was kind of sad that they're not there anymore. Thankfully, I think the most annoying part about today was the whole drink situation. So Aaron and Justin have these souvenir cups that have little microchips in them, and what you're supposed to do is you refill them or you recharge them. You pay $8 flat, and then you can refill it for free every 10 minutes. But the thing is, if you get something you don't like or your drink doesn't come out right, you're stuck with it for 10 minutes. So we get our cups charged, ready to go, and there's these Coke Freestyle machines all over the park. I put my cup on the machine, and there's no ice in the machine. The machine just doesn't have any ice. Out of ice, whatever. Okay, so we tell the lady who charged our cups, there's no ice. So she's like, all right, whatever. She filled the cups with ice. Then we go to get the drinks from the Freestyle. We had to go back from the counter to the Freestyle machine, and I go and get root beer, and I take a sip, and the root beer is flat. There is no carbonation in the root beer. It's like if you left a can of root beer out on the counter overnight, completely flat, undrinkable. I mean, who drinks flat root beer? So I threw it out, and I'm like, oh damn, I'm stuck now without a drink for 10 minutes, and of course everyone else got like tea or something, so they didn't even have to worry about it being flat. So that sucked. And of course all these people, there was just so many people. That's one thing I also don't miss. There's just so many people on their family vacation. There are all these people wearing their matching shirts, and Aaron joked that, hey, how come we didn't get matching shirts? Well, we would have looked just like any other, tourist out there, and I didn't want to really look that basic, I guess. But there really wasn't much to take video of, so I didn't really take much video of anything. I did get a little shot of the dragon on top of Gringotts at Diagon Alley, so there's a little clip of that. It does breathe fire. So that was cool. Overall, I did have fun, but it does remind me of why I don't go to theme parks that much. Maybe I'll come back to Universal in another 7 years. I don't know. But you know, for now, I'm fine just with the experience that I had. See you tomorrow. Well, I'm leaving tomorrow. I had a lot of fun and absolutely would love to do it again. Today was pretty lazy. We went to IKEA, didn't buy anything. Then we went to Ybor City, which is kind of like a Chinatown, but for Cuba instead of China. So a lot of Cuban culture there. A lot of hand-rolled cigars. We actually had one. Still have, I only was able to smoke like half of it, but still have the other half. Thankfully, I read that they should let you carry it on a plane, so I have a whole other half of a cigar to look forward to when I get home to celebrate. And we went to this amazing place for dinner called Columbia's Spanish restaurant. So I had the steak salteado, which is a pieces of filet mignon, like little medallions of filet mignon, and potatoes and mushrooms and chorizo and sauce with Spanish yellow rice. It was absolutely delicious. We had mojitos with it, so it was really, really great, and I can't wait to come back to it later. So yeah, that was Tampa, that was Florida, and my flight is tomorrow, and I'll be going home. See ya.